August is upon us, which means those internship applications for summer 2027 are going to start opening up pretty soon. If you've got an internship this summer, then congratulations. I managed to find myself one, and I've really enjoyed it, and I've learned a lot, but it sort of made me wonder, why couldn't I have got this internship in summer 2025 or 2024? And I think it all comes down to your experience and how you display that experience in your resume. So I've got a few different ideas I want to talk about. Let's get into it. So to be honest, I was going to put this point last, but then I realized, you know what? This was kind of the most important point for me specifically. I was very lucky in the company that I applied to. I know if I had just been a little bit more unlucky this summer, I would have been unemployed or, bagging groceries. So I only applied to about 10 or 15 places. And so my first advice is do not do that. Even if you don't think you're going to get in anywhere, just cast your net as wide as possible. Give yourself the most opportunity for luck. Now, how did I get lucky specifically? Well, it was because I knew C#. If you guys know, I used to make a lot of Unity games, so I put down C# on my resume. Luckily, one of the companies I applied to was a C# shop, so they took me in. That, and I'm graduating next spring, so they figured they could hire me back the next summer, which I feel is a little bit unfair because I knew C# last summer, I knew C# the summer before that, but whatever. Another way I got lucky, it was a quality assurance position, and I had just done 2 summers of QA with my AI training work. So I personally believe I could have done okay at all those other internships I applied to, but this just happened to be the one with the right keywords matching up to the right places. So how to get lucky? You need to maximize your statistics, which means, like I said, cast a wide net. Put yourself out there as much as possible. That means LinkedIn and Indeed. Just scroll down, apply to as many internships as possible, as many jobs. Even if they don't fit what you want perfectly, it's better than nothing, right? And being in a spot where you have to pick between multiple offers is a lot better than a spot where you have to pick between none. Also, if your school has a career fair or if you've got recruiters from other companies visiting, congratulations, you're luckier than some people. But also use those resources. I know it's a lot to wake up early in the morning and have to put on a suit or put on fancy clothes, but it really does help. So let's talk about what specifically should be in your resume, and I guess that means what specifically should be in your past experience. What recruiters want is to see that you've taken on responsibility in the past, because the best way to determine if you're qualified is not to determine if you're qualified and let somebody else do the hard work. So sort of a chicken and an egg situation, but you need to take on as much responsibility as somebody will let you have. Now, what shows responsibility? Obviously your grades at school, but these aren't a perfect signal since every course and every professor has different standards. And unfortunately, making a lot of software that doesn't really do anything doesn't help either. I did a lot of to-do list apps, a lot of game jams, but none of them really showed that I was qualified for anything. The real qualifications are what happens in the real world using actual time and actual money. Any past work experience is obviously going to be a huge boon for that. For me, it was being a teaching assistant for a CS class and also being vice president of my school's video game development club. Both of those positions involved not only me giving advice to other people, but more importantly, being in a situation where there's real cost for failure. And you'll notice that neither of these positions really involved solving a lot of engineering problems. I didn't have to write much code except for helping students with their projects, writing a couple lines. But all in all, they showed a lot more responsibility than any of the game jams I did or any of the simple web apps I wrote. So seek out responsibility in positions that involve working with other people in an environment that has real consequences. You'll find this a little bit more difficult than just sitting alone on your computer, but it's really more important too. So this is something that we can forget, especially if you're at a good college, but becomes obvious when you're actually working somewhere. Nobody's expecting you to be really a font of knowledge as an intern. They're not expecting you to come in with an encyclopedic knowledge of all the technologies you're going to be using. What employers are looking for is that you're able to learn quickly and able to pick up the skills you need to be successful. So it's not so much about how much you know, it's a little bit about who you know, but not really. It's more about how much you're willing and able to learn. And something similar, it's hard to tell how much you've done on a resume, but it's very easy to see all the keywords you've placed in there. And all these algorithms that are filtering for certain resumes are looking for exactly what keywords are in there. That lends itself to one particular strategy. So, for example, I mentioned I needed C# for my internship. So if you know C#, there's 2 ways to put it on your resume, right? You could say I have X years of experience in C#. Or you could say, I did this project which taught me C#. Or you could say, I made X game and I spent this many years using C# for that. It's a little bit more compelling way to say, not only have I learned this thing, but I can tangibly prove it to you that I've learned it. Unless you just learned it from like YouTube or Udemy tutorials or something, which in that case, you might question why you're putting it on the resume in the first place. Pretty much everything that's on the resume that got me hired was the first of those things that I did. My first Steam game, my first real web app. So if you do a bunch of different projects with a bunch of different keywords, a bunch of different programming languages, platforms, domains, even if they're just small prototypes, you max out those keywords and you learn a lot and you prove that you're capable of learning quickly. So the algorithm's happy and the employer's happy. So there's a lot of neat stuff, not on my resume, but on my personal website, YouTube channel, whatever, that employers absolutely did not look at, which is fair, because imagine you're a recruiter. In this economy, you've got to go through probably hundreds of resumes. You're just scanning each one quickly, taking maybe a minute. You're not going to spend time going through, clicking on somebody's website, clicking around the UI and taking 5 times as long to discover stuff that's probably already on the resume. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. Of course, I still think there are a lot of valuable reasons to have a personal website. For example, you guys, everybody out there who's not a recruiter or an employer, can still get a lot of value by looking around at it. But really, I've seen a lot of people who not only have a personal website with, fancy graphics, but also have a GitHub page. Have you seen these? A GitHub page with all these widgets on there and like stars and your grade. I've seen somebody brag on their GitHub page that they had a C+ from some algorithm. Some stuff you really just don't need to show anybody, let alone recruiters. There are certainly some exceptions. For example, if you're a UI UX designer, you want to show that you're able to design a nice personal web page, but really, I don't think there's any situation where you need the GitHub stuff. And in general, it doesn't show that you're a good engineer. So the key thing is to focus on your resume, the stuff that employers actually see, and avoid the status-seeking behavior that the only people that's going to notice it are other undergrads. So in conclusion, I want to mention my first point one more time, being lucky. That really is like 90% of it. There's so much about getting an internship that's in factors that you can't control. Even just the fact that you're in a spot where you're able to get an internship, that you're able to be at a nice college, that you're able to apply for jobs online, that sort of thing. So if you don't end up getting an internship for summer 2027 or whenever you're hoping to get one at the time you're watching this video, don't sweat it. There's plenty of stuff you can do over the summer. There's plenty of stuff I've done. You can contribute to open source, work on your own projects. There's a million things you could do. So in the meantime, if you've got tips about getting internships, maximizing your resume or your interview, your experience, anything else, let me know in the comments, because honestly, I'd like to hear it. I'd like to hear stuff for 2027. And I do quickly want to apologize for kind of abandoning you guys for the past few years. In terms of, I think, past 2 years, it's been pretty slim on the video situation. Hopefully I do get some more videos out soon. I've got a project that I've been working on that I'm really excited about, and I think you guys will be the perfect audience for showing it off. So really, this time I'm for real. Expect some more content in the future. But I suppose in the meantime, all I can say is have a good day.